So just the other day, I opened up my inbox and I got a really lovely email from a new scout leader called Josh. And here's what it said. Hello, Mark. I'm new to the scouting movement and I came across your YouTube channel. Here's a question for you. What's the difference between scouts and guides? And aren't they founded by the same person? Josh. Well, Josh, thank you very much for your email and your question. And let's answer it. So let's go back in time and just have a quick, brief scouting history lesson and just remind ourselves where scouting started. So we know that Robert Baden-Powell started with the idea of getting boys from the inner London out in the countryside and enjoying Mother Nature. And in 1909, a group of girls appeared at the Boy Scout rally in the UK and declaring themselves as Girl Scouts. And a year later, BP teamed up with his sister Agnes and started what is known now as the Girl Guides. In 1912, girl guiding has spread across the world in countries such as Ireland, Portugal, Norway, and America. That's the brief start on scouting and girl guiding. But what are similarities of scouts and guides? That's what Josh is asking. Well, I think sometimes if we step backwards and look at the big picture, scouts and guides are almost identical. So in girl guiding, there are rainbows, brownies, guides, and rangers. And if we look at the scout section, we have now squirrels, beavers, cubs, scouts, and explorers. So more or less identical with the ages, but just different names. But do scouts and guides interact? Well, yeah, they do. Even in my district, we have the district camping competition, and guides take part in that competition as well versus scouts. And also the gang show. Everyone loves a gang show, and we know that scouts and guides interact with the gang show. And if we look at badges, okay, they're not exactly the same. They might be worded differently and they have different graphics and different badges, but we kind of do the same in scouts and guides. We learn about first aid. We learn about the community. We do arts and craft. We go camping. There's a little few POR things that are different in girl guides that are slightly changing now and trying to match with scouts. But in general, we kind of do the same. But there's always a but. Scouts, we know, allow boys and girls in. But in guides, it's only girls. So why do girls leave girl guiding to join scouts if they more or less do the same? Well, looking at the big picture and actually talking to some girls that have joined my scout group recently, peer pressure. That's the number one thing, is what they've been telling me. So they have their male friends that they messing around at school with. They hang around at the park and do other events and bits and pieces and other clubs. But when it comes to a Thursday night, their male mates go off to scouts and they go off to guides. They thought, you know what? It'd just be easier to go to scouts and hang around with them and have more fun with them. And that's one of the reasons why girls join scouts and they quit. Girl guiding is peer pressure. But, another but, I found this really good quote from a girl guide leader, and it says this: I'm a girl guider leader, and I personally believe that it should be separate. I have seen on so many occasions where we've been able to touch on sensitive subjects that no way would be discussed in school, and especially around boys. Having a girl-only space is important, as it is boy-only spaces. So I was thinking about that quote and thought, you know what? I agree and I disagree. And I know where the girl guide leader is coming from. So this is my personal opinion. I have found it quite tricky on some occasions having girls at scouts. And hear me out. I remember I'm having a bit of a flashback now, and I still think, could I dealt with it differently? So the scout comes up to me and says, Mark, I'm just feeling a bit embarrassed to speak to you, but I've just started my period and it's my first period ever. Thankfully, I had a female young leader that I managed to buddy them up together. They went off to the girls and they did what they had to do. But how would I have dealt with that if it was just all boys? I don't know. I've got a wife. I've got a daughter. I'm medical. I deal with blood, guts, and that kind of thing day to day. But it was really uncomfortable for me to having to deal with that. So on one perspective, like having just boys only, I wouldn't have to have dealt with that, would I? But having girls in my scout group is quite fun. They are very competitive when they're going against the boys. And when they camp, their camp is immaculate. It's very tidy, very clean and stuff. And then you get the boys versus the girls. I love it. I've not had any difficult conversations with boys that means I would only have a boy section. I don't know. But that's just my personal opinion. Maybe you're different. Maybe you are a strict scouter and you don't want girls in your troop. I don't know. But for me, I like it. I like the banter. I like the competition between the boys and the girls. It's great. I personally really enjoy having a mixed troop. So, Josh, to answer your question, are there any big differences between scouts and guides? Honestly, not really. It's just the name, isn't it? I think maybe in the future, looking in the future, we could amalgamate and become scouts instead of having scouts and guides. But you never know. In the future, we might have amalgamated group and not be separated guides and scouts. Who knows? So, Josh, there we are. I hope I answer your question. Are there any differences between scouts and guides? Not really. Are they founded by the same person? Yes. Not really. As I said, BP started the scouts, and he asked his sister Agnes, could she start up the Girl Guides? So it's the same family, but not the same person. Does that make sense? Well, there we go, guys. I hope that's answered your question, Josh. And maybe you as well have been trying to work out what the difference is between scouts and guides. And if you have a question, guess what? You too can be like Josh and email me your question, whatever it is. There is never a silly question. Just sometimes it's hard to ask other leaders in your group or the GSL because you don't want to be embarrassed. Do you know what? Ask me and I will answer it. Guys, if you want some more advice on scouting, watch this playlist here. It's all about first-time scout advice. And I'll see you next time here on Big Man in the Woods. Take care and happy camping.